Hello, this is Steve Fretzin. I'm here with Gary Levenstein with Ungrady & Harris. We are here discussing business development, and so I wanted to just take a little time and ask you some questions and try to get some good tips, takeaways, secrets, etc. for our listeners. Do me a favor, just briefly describe your legal background leading up to your current role at the firm.
Sure. Gary Levenstein. Pleasure to be interviewed by Steve. I'll go through a very short, brief biography. University of Illinois undergrad, CPA out of college, even though I was a history major, a split minor between psychology and accounting. Lucky to pass the CPA exam before headed to Northwestern for law school. Came out of Northwestern, worked at a law firm today, which is now DLA Piper, one of the largest in the world. And I came to Ungrady & Harris 18 years ago to become head of the corporate department, and not soon thereafter the firm split into three segments, and I've chaired the business practice for many years, of which the different business-oriented groups report directly to me. My specialty is mergers, acquisitions, and corporate finance. I practice that on a daily basis. In addition, of course, managing the business practice in the corporate group, as I said, that reports directly to me, and participating in business development as well as managing client relationships.
Okay. Thank you. That's good. So I'm trying to get a feeling from you about how you see the legal industry today versus, say, 10 or even maybe 15 years ago. Any specific thoughts on that and how it's changed?
Of course, and it's something I talk about every day, probably with some of my partners, being a longtime executive committee member and in a major role in the administration and governance of the law firm. In the larger mega firms, national firms, regional firms, many years ago, of course, if you paid your dues, you stuck with it, you performed admirably, you were a good partner. A lot of the business was institutionalized, and you continued to grow with that firm or stay with the firm, lockstep system, and you worked hard, you performed, you were compensated, you were respected as a partner, and you had a long-term career with fine law firms. Today, it is a much different dynamic, considering they have no incentive nor no interest in making true equity partners, so they can keep their profits per partner at a very high level to enable their recruiting and to compensate those partners that are generating business well compensated. A number of lawyers, of course, have left the practice of law to go into investment banking, hedge funds, private equity, and even buying companies. So in order to maintain that level of lawyer, there's no interest in the mega firms of making partners. To that end, they will make associates partners, but of course it's a second-tier partnership, and they will eliminate those people readily at a 12 to 14 year out, and then those people, although having made a lot of money and worked incredibly hard for those 12 to 14 years, are now left on the street looking for a place to hang their hat and establish and find a career path. Mm-hmm. And needless to say, they don't have a lot of business generally because they've been assigned to do firm business for institutional clients, which even though they may think during the interview process they can take those clients with, it is highly unlikely, highly unusual that those clients are portable, because those clients are wed to a firm on an institutional level and not necessarily wed to a 12 to 14 year old so-called partner.
Okay.
So that is a major, major change.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your background from a standpoint of from DLA and on. Can you think of a defining moment where you realized that you could make rain, or that you realized that that's what you wanted to focus on in growing, your practice over the last number of years?
Yeah. There absolutely was a defining moment, and it happened when I was at what was then Rudnick and Wolf, which is now DLA Piper, and I was asked as a very young associate to handle a couple matters for a small publicly held restaurant company, and the chairman of the board and CEO was a very flamboyant woman and a very strong personality from Los Angeles, and everything I seemed to handle for her seemed to go right, although it was not what I would call complex legal work, and certain other things that were perhaps more complex did not necessarily go well. So she became, at a very young age, very wed to me because I was proactive, I was energetic, I was enthusiastic, and it was a hoot for me to be involved with that type of person.
Very good, very good. So when you think about the challenges that are facing attorneys today, directly relating to business development, what are some of the things that you're seeing as roadblocks for them in trying to develop business?
Well, and that's a question that we pose and we probe constantly about the lack of availability of smaller clients or emerging clients in the marketplace today. And that issue is probably being led by years ago, there was manufacturing business, distribution business, there were startups in different sectors. In today's business, a lot of it is driven by technology. And when you're doing a technology startup, you can't afford to pay significant legal fees. And you can only pay those fees at such time as you're funded by venture capital. And at that point, the venture capital players are going to largely impose their choice of counsel on you. So if you look at the burgeoning marketplace, whether it's energy, technology, healthcare, financial services, you have many of those on the startup basis that cannot afford nor willing to pay legal fees.
Okay.
And therefore you don't have that broad-based market of the O-line economy, which allowed somebody to come in and garner clients, maybe at a lesser fee,
right,
but still develop clients that are going to emerge over a period of years, where in technology it goes immediately from home plate to a home run. And there really isn't that much room in those developing businesses for the competitive mid-market or even smaller market firm, unless you're going to drive technology at very low rates. And there are some successful boutiques doing that.
Okay.
The way to take advantage of it, perhaps, is to align with some of the small boutiques who are working with some of these early-stage startup companies, and they will tend to lose those clients after they get funded. But if you can align yourself with some of those boutiques, or at least one, because you can't do that arrange with many people, then perhaps you can work with that person on taking that client to the next stage and allow that early stage legal counsel to continue to participate at some level. But other than that, it's a difficult marketplace for new clients.
But and this may just be my thought about this, but at this stage, business is seeming to be so, I don't want to say rare, but people are holding on to everything they can. So do the boutique firms, they'll just kind of figure out ways to work with their clients that are growing and try to stay in the mix versus referring someone that might help them, or are you not seeing that?
Well, business is precious, and you don't want to send it out. And one of the lessons you learn in the law as you get older is don't market what you can't deliver, because ultimately the client is going to note that you're not capable of doing it, and that is going to lose trust. You're not going to have their trust, and they're going to go someplace else and pull all the business.
Okay. So when I'm working with lawyers, and I've found that they fall into one of three categories. They're the Rainmakers that are already kind of making magic happen. There's the worker bee that wants to make rain because they see the potential. They're driven by revenue. They're driven by ambition. And then there's the worker bee that's just going to stay in that role and just introverted, doesn't want to go out and meet, and that's just never something that they wanted to do or intended to do when they went through law school, and and it doesn't change even regarding the opportunity. What are you suggesting to the folks that are in your firm that are in that middle group to get out there and make it happen? What are some of the things that you're routinely suggesting that they do to get from 200,000 to 400, or to get from that starter level to the moving level?
Well, I could be facetious and say they could do it the old-fashioned way, which is to stay the course, inherit business and clients from the older guys as they get older, get more generous, don't want to manage their clients, or there's extraordinary revenue that could be produced from those clients with some extraordinary marketing that the person who originally had the client may not be willing to do. Mm-hmm. So, and that's one part of the facetious answer. The other part of the facetious answer is sometimes you can develop your book of business by aligning yourself very closely with clients that are not being managed by the partner who originated it, and you can either hold your firm hostage or you can bolt from your firm and take those clients with.
Yeah.
So those are two facetious answers, and there's a lot of truth in both of those.
Okay.
But on a more traditional, typical means of encouraging those people in that middle level, there is no reason, if you're not lunching, you're not working.
But I know that one of the objections that I get from attorneys that want to build a book, but they hear, oh, join this or go on lunches, and they just don't. They've either done it and they haven't had great success with it. It almost seemed like they just had a lunch for lunch's sake, or they're in an association for years and they've just never been able to see any return from that investment. I mean, are you giving any suggestions to them that are a little deeper than just to do those things?
Sure, because you make the entree, you get to know somebody, but what's the key to the success? And the key to the success is doing something for that person that you met through the networking events as soon as possible. And I don't mean just a call 2 weeks later, let's have another breakfast, let's have another lunch. That means identifying what that person needs and wants and immediately going to work to find something that appeals to them, whether it's a buy side, a sell side, a financing side, whether it's an introduction that will enhance their revenue production or it could even cut some costs. But you have to show them that you listened to them, you found out what they wanted, and you jump on that phone and you make it work within a very short period so they think you're on the ball and they think you're interested in them and you're going out and stepping out and doing something for them. And that's a major key to my business development.
Let me ask you this question, because another area that I know attorneys struggle with is they finally get an opportunity to meet with someone who could do business with them. Do you have a model or philosophy or something that's worked for you around a process, or how do you, if you're meeting with me and I'm a potential client for you, do you have a process or system or steps that you follow to try to make that meeting worthwhile for everybody?
Yeah, first of all, you always start out on a personal level. You don't talk about yourself. You ask them, and I do this, it's almost elevator chat for me. When I meet them for the first time, or I'm walking to a dining room table, or seeing them at an event, the first thing you ask is a personal, non-personal question. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? How about that game last night? But you want to find out what their interests are, where they're from, and try to create a common denominator very quickly, very early in the discussion. A common friend, a common relationship, a common deal, common other companies in the industry you may know about. Transactions done in their industry. But try to pull out what is a common denominator and get them talking about themselves.
Find those common grounds so that you have something that you can feel good about and trust kind of early on.
Correct.
Yeah.
And defer as long as possible talking about yourself and the firm, because there's a lot of lawyers out there. They don't know what the differentiator is. You find the differentiating element after you find out who they are, what they're looking for.
Got it.
And then, at some point, later on in the discussion, you have either mentioned some of your own personal background or issues, or you do get a moment and keep it brief, talking about your firm and what you can bring to the table, because they don't want to listen to you.
Yep.
So you want to keep it short, no different than that elevator speech I gave when we first started the interview.
Right.
Keep it short, keep it to the point. They don't want to listen to you drone on and on. They really don't care.
Okay.
What they want to know is what can you deliver to the table besides the same legal services as every other firm would do.
Okay. So are you listening to their issues and trying to uncover what's going on and how deep sort of the rabbit hole goes, and then where?
Well, you're not listening to their issues as much as you're listening to who they are.
Okay.
And so that you can create a friendship and a relationship very early on.
Okay.
In fact, there was a great article from the Wall Street Journal about a month ago, and I think I mentioned it to you, Steve, and I have it on my desk. I pulled it for you. And I think the title of the article is Likeability.
Yeah, I did look that up online, yeah.
Right. And
it's more general. It's not. I don't think it's.
It's not about law.
Right.
It's not about law, but it has direct applicability. So if you can create a likability factor early on in the conversation, you're going to uncover their needs, their wants, their desires, their goals, and then you try to pick up on those and try to give them thoughts, solutions, and opportunities to further their goals. But you're doing that without being engaged, and you're doing that without charging a fee, and you're strutting your stuff by showing them what you can do besides drafting a document.
Okay, great. So I think that the one thing is, sorry, so let's take it back a step. So I think there are a lot of attorneys that would like to say, I need a niche. I need to find a niche. Do you have any thoughts or advice about how to find a niche?
Well, the first part is, what do you enjoy and what are you good at? Because in all good marketing, the energy, the passion, the enthusiasm will show. And if you understand something, you probably have been lured to it because it's part of your being. That's something you can effectively market, and you enjoy doing it. If you don't enjoy doing it, you're never going to market it well, right? Because you're not going to show the energy, the passion, the enthusiasm that your client's going to be looking for. So the first thing is, what do you really enjoy? What can you buy into as a passion? What can you buy into, really learn, and be able to develop?
Okay.
And of course, you have to have some skills to be able to supplement that passion. So it really is a combination of what do you enjoy and what your skills permit you to do. Okay.
Is there a I'm going back a little bit here, but is there a mistake that you're seeing attorneys make in not following advice that you and I would give them, and what is that mistake that you're seeing happen pretty regularly?
And perhaps because I've mentored so many people, and both who've left the firm and in the firm, when I go with a young person to a lunch, and that person is broadly marketing perhaps certain areas that they really aren't skilled in. So the mistake that is made is being broad marketing areas that you are not skilled in. And even if you have skills in multiple areas, and I always thought I did, appeal to the audience, narrow that skill, because they don't want to hear that you're an expert in 5 things, because you can't be.
Right, okay.
There are financial rewards if you handle yourself properly, you're backed up by the right people, as in any team, and it's a wonderful way to have a successful career.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, happy to do it.